Let's take a simple idea, a ruined wall of stone, and make it a bit more weird. Hello folks, and welcome to Dice Chatter. My name is Donnie, and today I wanted to get back into building some simple terrain ideas, especially just after finishing up my skull centerpiece, which was quite the undertaking. And I haven't used all of my foam bricks in a while, and I figured, let's bump up the creativity, adding a bit more of the weird and unusual. And maybe, just maybe, these creations can be a great way to make the players at the table think a bit more about the decisions they make while moving their models on the board. Oh, and speaking of players at the table, we have wrangled up a couple new ones. The gray kitty is Jade. She is a bit, camera shy. And the black one is Gary. He is a sweet yet destructive boy. But enough about these bundles of joy, let's dive right into the terrain build. I want to build something unique, simple to create, and continue to blend and mesh with all of my other terrain builds. I don't want these walls to be basic, boring sight blockers. I want a bit more character, and this is the part of the video where I encourage you to branch out if you haven't already. Using Super Sculpey or any oven-baked clay is what will help us achieve our goals today. I've kind of fallen in love with this option of terrain crafting. It is a way to take time and plan out a special, one-of-a-kind look for any creation. And if you don't like it, roll the clay back up into a ball and try again. I decided to create a series of simple yet fun-looking faces, symbols, and supports for some wooden dowels. I want to use these sculpted pieces and glue them to the walls we'll be creating in a moment. Maybe it'll give off some Indiana Jones or ancient Mesoamerican vibes. Either way, using some clay tools, a pasta roller, and a bit of an imagination, you can create some interesting sculpts. Just make sure to wear some gloves so that you don't get your fingerprints on all your finely crafted faces. Once you are happy with everything, throw it in the oven for a quick 15 minutes, and you have yourself some extra bits to add to any terrain creation. Of course, this video is all about creating some weird and wacky walls, so maybe it's about time we get into the main focus. I decided on some cardstock to be our guide today. These quick cutouts will be our plans for the front and back of each single wall. Here are some rough dimensions. I didn't exactly make every wall perfect and precise, as I knew I wanted them to be a touch ruined. Enough slight changes to the height and width of each wall will continue to make each stone outcrop unique on the table. But before we get any farther, we need all of those foam bricks I have been missing so much. Like always, we use the Proxon to help make this a speedy process, slicing and dicing all of this insulation foam. Then throw them in a tub with some jagged stones to give them a wonderful texture. Of course, I will be using my typical A, B, and C bricks for this terrain build. Take a nice screen grab if you so desire. Though I wanted to add another brick to this world. This decently sized cube will be great as a central and sturdy inner foundation for each wall. And who knows, if I like it so much, maybe I'll even give it the title of D-Brick. So let's go back to those plans and start hot gluing down some foam. Building up the inner foundation of the wall is the best thing to start with. I found focusing on the bottom, followed by the sides, and then finishing off at the top was the best way to lay down these foam cubes. I also left myself a bit of room to add some weight to this build. I just hot glued down some metal BBs to the D-bricks near the base of the wall. Just be careful adding weight to a build like this. With an overall thin foundation, we don't want all the weight of this terrain build to be to one side. It is literally a balancing act. And I start to realize this after I hot glue on some clay bits and attempt to drive a wooden dowel through the wall. Adding things like some of those large cubes to the front and back of these walls and relying on a wooden dowel or two can help compensate for all of the toppling issues. We then start to add in some A, B, and C bricks wherever my little heart desires. I found the varying sizes of C bricks to be best used on the sides of the wall where any odd-shaped clay bit is glued down. But other than that, I generally just let the imagination and bricks take me where I need to go. Some walls had a general theme, while others had stone slabs laid down haphazardly. Oh, and of course, it would have probably been a bit better to give your clay creations a bit of texture with a file and hobby knife before you glue down your bricks. And if you want to go the extra mile, use those same tools and a foil ball to give those insulation foam bricks a slash or two. At this point, we can call the build portion of this creation complete. Of course, I didn't cover how I tackled those wooden dowels to add even more fun to this creation, and if you are interested, check out the video popping up in the corner. I think everything is coming along well to this point. A good mix of variety and feel to each wall. Models have numerous places to hang out and call home, which I hope will add a bit to the gameplay side of things. But we just can't stop here. Let's splash a bit of paint on these walls. Every time I get to the painting stages of a terrain build, I am always a bit unsure how it is all going to turn out. Though after a good black prime and a zenithal highlight with a white ink, we go through the bucket of cheap craft paints and decide on a mess of colors. I figure I'll stick with my standard brown theme for most of the walls and tickle a few others with some red, yellow, and orange pigment. For me, a build like this is all about showing off some subtlety and color. Rocks and stones can be extremely vibrant, and I like to think whatever ancient empire carved and placed these cut stones knew exactly what they were doing. We start with some overbrushing and heavy stippling with a dark brown on some and a deep red on others. I really try to slam paint into the deepest areas, making sure to get some good coverage in all the cracks and folds of these rocky structures. From here, keep introducing colors one by one, retaining a steady hold of your favorite dry brush. This is a good time for you to experiment with color choice, maybe practice a bit of dry brushing and continue to hone your painting skills. You can see after we are all set with this first stage, there is some nice, subtle, and at times big color differences between the stones on each wall, but there is still a bit more to do. With every stone brick build, we need to bring out the joint compound. Unlike other previous stone terrain builds, I focus on one small area at a time, pushing the spackle into each and every crack and crevice. I thin the spackle down with just a touch of water so that it has a consistency of whipped cream. Also, you will have some extra joint compound on the stones, and just make sure to wipe it away with a dry paper towel. After you take the time to fill in all the cracks, we need to let the spackle dry and harden up. Of course, in the meantime, you can take some Army Painter speed paints and finish up the few wooden dowel sections you had planned for the walls. Mix and match these paints however you like, and then hot glue everything in place. And it is never a bad idea to add in a few extra bits at this point. Some thin rope holding all of these wooden logs together, a few skulls, and maybe a chain or two. Now I'd say we are in the home stretch and can bring out a number of Army Painter washes and start making these ruined walls fit the part. Light tone, I focus on just about every part of the walls, though I do try to angle this lighter shade from the top. In contrast, the Army Painter's strong tone is focused on the areas of the build where more dirt and refuse would build up. This is angled and sprayed mostly from the bottom. After all this dries, we come through and brighten everything up with two subtle attempts at some dry brushing. Be sure to focus on trying to force the paint into a downward direction, emulating old and ancient stone. The khaki tan tone will go on first, making sure to only focus on the highest and protruding edges of the stone, and then follow that up with some mummy robes in areas where you want a little bit more pop. Off camera, I decided to add some grass tufts, used a white ink to paint on some symbols and text, and of course, a bit of blood to bring everything together. I always seem to find myself starting a terrain project like this, thinking that I'll be all painted up and complete over a few days. And then I decide to make a plethora of options and it turns into weeks of work. Now, I don't intend this statement to be one of disdain towards a project like this. Actually, quite the opposite. Because where one may create a wall like this one and feel accomplished, to me, it is only the beginning. Be sure to look out for more terrain builds like this one and some battle reports featuring some awesome tabletop wargames. I want to thank my patrons who have been with me for quite some time, and your support is most appreciated. Until next time, folks, I want to thank you all for watching, and of course, happy gaming.